Hello, hello and welcome. I'm Barbara Corellis and welcome to Urban Tantra. What's in it for you? I'll just wait a moment while people actually pull this up on their screens. There's probably some delay between everybody signing on and this going live. So I'll just say welcome. Thank you so much for joining me live tonight. And for those of you who are watching the replay, thank you for taking the time out of what I know is your busy schedule to be with me for Urban Tantra. What's in it for you? I got so many questions for this webinar. I have tried my very best to answer 92% of them. I'm going to turn this over for a minute to my trusty sidekick, Elise, who's going to explain how this is going to work and the procedure that's going to help me get through all these questions in enough depth to make you happy. So here's Elise.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're so happy that you chose to spend some of your busy days with us tonight. We got so many great questions. Barbara's going to try to answer as many as she can during the 90 minutes that we have together. So she's going to go through them. We have a whole bunch of different topics that we're going to touch on. And throughout the process, I'm going to be shooting you resources. So those are going to go into the chat bar. So make sure you have your chat open. And we'd also love for you to use the chat for engaging with the questions. So if you have comments, if you have personal experiences, feel free to be open and share on the chat. We do have a lot of content to go through, so we're not going to be taking follow-up questions, but if you have a burning question or if there is something that you're wondering, feel free to shoot it in the chat and maybe we can get some community engagement in there as well. I'm also here for tech support. So I'm going to be helping Barbara along as we go. There is a delay between what you're seeing and the chat. So if you make a comment or if there seems to be a lag between the discussion and what's being seen, just be aware that that's something that tends to happen with the webinar software that we use. If you are having big tech issues, if you can't see us or hear us, actually, if you can see us and hear us well right now, shoot something in the chat just so we know that you're there. That would be great. A boost of confidence for us. It always goes a long way. But if you are having big chat issues or big webinar issues, you can email me personally at Elise, E-L-I-S-E, @urbantantra.org, and we'll be sure to get those tech issues answered for you right away. So, yep, I'll be popping in and out with things as we go, so I'm sure you'll see me before the end of the webinar, but otherwise, I'm going to turn it over to Barbara.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Elise. And hi, everyone. I'm waving at the chat bar. We have lots of friends and colleagues and people from Facebook, just lots of good folks here tonight. So you're in a really good community. So if you do want to share something on the chat bar, you've got a whole lot of very kind, knowledgeable people on this chat. So let's get going. My first question, I love this one. Why do you call it Urban Tantra? Is there anything called suburban Tantra or countryside Tantra? I love that. No, I don't think there is, but maybe there should be. I called it Urban Tantra for a couple of reasons. First of all, I am, as you may see, a New York City kind of girl. And, and I lived when I was studying Tantra in New York City. Many of the people I was studying Tantra with lived in Maui or Marin County, California, these gorgeous wooded, seaside, beautiful, beautiful places. But the Tantra that I needed to practice and the Tantra that I was trying to teach my friends, which back in the day the initial audience was gay men living with AIDS, we didn't have a whole lot of easy access to nature except for Central Park. So I had to create a practice that could be done by city dwellers with all that implies. Not only living situation, apartments, not lovely houses with lawns or flowing brooks, but also the diversity that you might find in a city. as I said, I wanted a Tantra practice that would include my gay male friends with AIDS, or people of color, or people of all income ranges. And that just wasn't showing up in the Tantra communities where I first studied. That was then, this is now. But that was my drive, to create a practice that would include all of us, from the most privileged to the least privileged, shall we say. I also wanted to be really careful about cultural appropriation. Tantra is an ancient Indian spiritual practice that goes back hundreds of years. And I really wanted to make it clear that I was not posing as some sort of guru. I didn't come down from some lineage in India. I didn't grow up in India. And I really wanted to make it clear that this was something that was certain. It was a branch of Tantra. It was a form of Tantra, but it wasn't quote unquote traditional Tantra. And again, I wanted to be aware of cultural appropriation. So, one other thing. Tantra in its root Indian form is not all about sex. If you think of a whole big lake, and that whole big lake is Tantra, maybe, a quart jar is about sex in the whole beingness of everything tantric. However, I can understand why people living in the modern world, especially in the Western world, and maybe elsewhere in the world as well, try to make Tantra only about sex. There are so few sex-positive spiritual paths that when we find one, we tend to go, oh, yes, and we tend to take from it that piece which we are missing elsewhere in the culture. So I think that's one of the reasons that there's been a focus on the sexual aspect of Tantra. And that used to bother me a lot, but now I'm okay with it because I really see how it's serving an important need. And people can certainly go on to explore the other aspects of Tantra that interest them. Okay, next question. What's the best way to get started in an exploration of Tantra? And I really have to say that kind of depends on who you are, how you like to learn. Like, I know I'm very experiential. I learn by doing. Other people learn really well from a book, or they can listen to an audio recording of a lecture or a workshop and get a lot out of it. So first consider how you learn best. And what I found worked for me was a combination of body and mind. So I read every book I could find that I was drawn to. Don't read something just because it says Tantra that doesn't seem to speak to some juicy inner part of you. If it speaks to your heart, if it speaks to your soul, keep reading. If it doesn't, there's a lot of other books out there. So keep searching. And I really loved workshops. I sought out workshops wherever I could. I studied with some wonderful people. I studied with some less talented but well-meaning people. Basically, I had a lot of wonderful experiences. And I really, personally, I really advocate that you study from a lot of different people until you're sure you've really found the one. And even then, I think a variety of opinion and experience is really valuable. Now, one way to begin is to look at the resource list in the back of my book, Urban Tantra, and Elise will put that link up for you. I really worked hard to come up with a resource list that I thought would serve a broad spectrum of people. So check that out. And also, I'm doing a one-day introductory workshop on Urban Tantra in New York City on the 22nd of August, and Elise will throw that link up as well. So if you're in the New York City area or can get to New York City, that's a really popular one-day course, and it's a whole lot of fun too. Next question. What's the best way for someone to introduce some Tantra to a partner who has no interest in the woo stuff? And a similar question was, how do I open the discussion for sacred sex with a partner if I've never done it before, but I want to? I recommend, especially for the first question, introducing it to a non-woo partner. Get practical. Sacred sex techniques like breath, sound, using your imagination to move erotic energy around the body, movement, all produce very tangible physical results. It's not very woo. It's really very, you do this, this happens. It's very practical, very cause and effect. And as I have seen and learned from several of my colleagues in the Urban Tantra Professional Training Program and now community, there are some very intellectual academic types who totally get Tantra. Some very scientific geeky types who really get Tantra. And in fact, one of my colleagues, Adam Ginglin, is actually working on creating a Tantra for geeks and nerds for people who really don't think that they would like it, but he's going to explain to them why they will. More on that as it happens. So you might start with something like, hey, I heard about eye gazing. I hear that you can get a really trippy, wonderful, sexy, melty, kind of otherworldly thing going on if we just kind of eye gaze for like 10 minutes. We have 10 minutes. We can fuck in 11. Can we try the eye gazing thing? Come on, just try it with me. And it's okay if we laugh. And it is okay if you laugh. Something like that is like, why not? I'm going to get laid at the 11th minute. You know, most people are down with that. So small increments and try things slowly, like the breath. You know, do you know that I heard that you could even have an orgasm from breathing? And even if you can't do that, that breathing really helps you feel a lot more sexual. You feel a lot more during sex. Could we try like supporting each other in breathing more? Or at least could you help me breathe more? I'd really like to try that. Now, most loving partners want to see their partners happy, turned on, and having a fabulous time. And most will do what they can to support that. See what I mean about practical? You don't have to give them a lecture on cosmic consciousness or becoming one with all that is. All of that's really good when you experience it, but it can be kind of a turnoff as a lecture. And another suggestion is give them an enticing reason, like, I heard that you can have much better orgasms if you breathe more. It tends to be an incentive. And lastly, I would find out by asking your partner, what is it about sex that makes it really, really, really special for you? And then you go first. Like, what I really love about sex, you might say, is the connection I feel with you when we're making love. Or you might say, the connection I feel to nature, or whatever it is for you, and ask them what it is for them. Because when we know why somebody really, 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 really likes sex, their real top value in the erotic experience, it's easier to satisfy that with Tantra or with anything else. Okay, this is another what do I recommend for references question. This is an author, a romance and author and Tantra novice who wants to include specific details about Tantra in her novels, especially about older characters who connect through Tantra practices. Right on, great idea. And they also want to include information resources at the end for curious readers. So again, I've told you about the resources in Urban Tantra, the book. You can also go to my website. There's a free downloads link on the website, and you don't have to chase it down because Elise is going to put it on the chat. So you can look there as well. Here's a good one. My question has to do with penetrative sex, whether by penis or dildo, and not necessarily in the setting of kink. Please could you discuss where penetrative sex is in the scheme of things regarding Tantra? Can you practice Tantra without penetration? If you can, is the experience different? Yes, you can. And people do it all the time. Some people anyway. It's important to remember that genitals are just one aspect of sex. In traditional Western culture, we tend to be very genitally focused when we talk about sex. Like, well, any supermarket tabloid, you know, that you're thumbing through while you're waiting for your groceries to be rung up. 30 ways to have a better orgasm. 5 ways to make him beg for it. Whatever. You've seen them. They're very action-oriented. In Tantra, We're more about the energetic connection and allowing life force, erotic, sexual energy to move through us. Essentially, to be done by the energy, to allow that energy as opposed to do something. When you focus on the energetic aspects of sex, you actually realize that they're much bigger than just the genitals. The effect of a lot of very full breathing, unrestricted breathing, committed conscious breathing, the effect of prolonged eye gazing, of energy connections, such as becoming aware of a heart connection. They slow you down, and because you're slowed down and you're breathing, you feel a lot more. There's so much juice in every moment. And in every square inch of skin becomes a kind of sex organ. Skin is the largest organ on your body, and it's incredibly available for, well, you just can really use it like a sex organ if you think of it like one, and you can treat it like a sex organ. When you start to think of sex as a much bigger event than just genitals connecting, you can start to see why it's pretty easy to have essentially energy sex if you want to in Tantra. And you know what? Some people who, for whatever reason, do not want to have penetrative sex use Tantra exactly like that for energy sex. They get just as high, they have just as powerful orgasms, physical or energetic, and we'll talk more about that later. Then people, they are just as satisfied sexually as people who have penetrative sex. And of course, penetrative sex and Tantra also go together. Many positions such as Yab Yum are designed for penetrative sex, but you can also do them without penetration, which is really cool. And for instance, we'll be talking about, this will come up several times in the call because of the questions people asked. There's also erotic massage. What has become known as Tantra massage is a wonderful way of moving energy through the body, staying present with the person that you are either giving or receiving a massage from, and going into the sensations that we often miss when we're in wild, passionate fucking. Nothing wrong with wild, passionate fucking. I'm just saying there are other choices. And so erotic massage can certainly be done without penetration. It's one of the nice things about it for a whole lot of people. And is it better? Is it different? Yes, of course. It is a little different. Just like, well, how is it different? For some people, I've heard it described as, it felt like I was having an orgasm every place except my genitals, but I was having this whole body orgasm. So it was different, but it wasn't better or worse, just different. So yeah, penetration certainly available, but it's not required. Does Tantra say anything about squirting? Well, in fact, yes, it does. In Tantra, female ejaculate is called Amrita, roughly translating into divine nectar. Lots has been written about Amrita and this divine nectar. And again, we could have a whole half an hour or more on this subject, but suffice it to say, Carolyn Muir, who, a lovely woman, good friend, who's the co-author of The Art of Conscious Loving, she wrote a really lovely, concise blog post about Amrita / female ejaculation, and it even includes a link to a DVD. So if you want to know a lot more about this, just follow the resource that Elise is going to throw up on the chat. So yes, Amrita, very, very big part of tantric sexuality for some people. I like this question a lot, this one coming up. Can I get better control of my lust through Tantra? Yes. And let me explain why. Let's for the moment, let's define lust. Lust to me feels future oriented. I want something out there that I don't have right now, and I am lusting after it. Once it's in my sphere, once I'm making love to this delicious being that I was lusting after, I think, or at least the definition I'm using right now, is that lust becomes a more active in the moment passion, or can be turned into that. And what I'm suggesting is Tantra, because it's with its emphasis on being in the present moment. All our emphasis in Tantra in terms of lovemaking is being on what's happening right now, not what happened a few minutes ago, not what might happen a few minutes from now, not, oh, this wasn't so good the last time I tried it, or I wonder if I'll have an orgasm tonight, but rather right now, I'm really loving that feeling of that tongue running up my spine. That's delicious. And when you can focus your attention, your concentration, your intention on each individual present moment, then it's not lust anymore. It's focus, concentration, and presence, which is a delicious, lovely thing. A little tip for achieving that is slowing down. One of the first little principles I learned from my first Tantra teacher was 3 strokes for 30, meaning where you might stroke somebody or some part of their body or thrust 30 times. In that same amount of time, slow it down to 3 and see what that does to the encounter. So slowing down, taking a breath, and practicing what has become known as mindfulness, being in the present moment, will help you get better control of what you're calling lust. So good luck with that. I think it'll work for you. Is Tantra for me? Even if I only had sex with one man and didn't have orgasms, and I'm 44 now. I'm divorced for 8 years and I don't have a partner. Absolutely. Tantra is not just for couples. It's not even all about sex, especially in a solo practice. Not especially, just also in a solo practice. It's not all about sex. It's about a way of walking through the world that encourages us to slow down and to go into things deeply and with more awareness. And when we do, we find little lovely nuggets of juiciness in all aspects of life. We get closer to that old adage of it's like you're making love with all of life all the time. That's not a goal, but it's an experience that can sort of start to happen to you when you start practicing Tantra. Now, cultivating a solo practice is important no matter what your relationship status is. This is really important. A solo practice means you can focus on what's happening in your own body, in your own spiritual body, in your own emotional body, in your own mind. And often when we're with a partner, which is a different and lovely kind of wonderful, we are of necessity and intention distracted from that complete concentration on ourselves, because that's what the interaction's about, and that's a good thing. But it's also lovely to have some space where it's all about you. Think of, and I'll probably say this more than once tonight, think of a solo Tantra practice, which will include breathing and masturbation and meditation and awareness. Think of it, as my dear friend Annie Sprinkle called it, medibation, combination of masturbation and meditation, and meditate often. When I was writing Urban Tantra, I remember the first publisher of the book, who did not wind up publishing the book, was was very frustrated that I wouldn't let go of a big section in the book on solo tantra because they felt that people were only interested in the couple stuff. And I'm so glad that I stuck to my guns on solo tantra, because the feedback I've gotten over the years is that it's one of the most important parts of the book to almost everybody, whether or not they are in a relationship, because as they say, your most long-lasting, non-ending relationship throughout life, sexually and otherwise, is with yourself. So that's really where it starts. And it is amazing when you start to learn to love yourself more, better. It's amazing how many more lovely people, including potential lovers and partners, wind up tripping their way across your path. So more on solo tantra. As I said, this was popular in the book. It's popular in the questions. What do you do to cultivate that energy when you're not in a relationship and haven't dated in a few years? And you're okay with that, but you'd like to find the right person someday. This is very much related to the question we just talked about. Again, start a solo practice. Breath, moving energy around on your breath, meditation, medibation. And here's another way to think about it. What can take a little practice for some folks, first of all, is to keep breathing, because we live in a culture that asks us to shut down our breath on a regular basis, because big, full, deep, juicy breathing just isn't cool in the Western culture. In crowded public spaces just makes people nervous. So I encourage you to make them nervous. I do all the time. But anyway, so just being able to breathe and keep breathing without losing your focus on the breath, that's something right there. And some people have challenges with the idea of moving erotic energy around. And we've got some other questions coming up that concern that. And this medibation practice gives you time to practice. Like, you could have an orgasm and with your breath and with your mind, send it to your legs or to your heart or out to your hands. And it's really a creative, erotic use of imagination, because when you can imagine and or believe or fake it till you feel it, another basic Urban Tantra principle in my world, energy follows thought. It really, really does. And the more you practice this, the more you'll understand how you can move erotic energy around your body and then circulate it with a lover. So, and there's a lot about that actually in the Urban Tantra book if you haven't read it. I am working with touch, breath, awareness, sound, and movement, but I have a lot of resistance to actually maintaining my solo practice. Do you have any hints that might help me to convince myself or trick myself, I love that, into taking 10 minutes 3 times a week to engage in some self-pleasuring exercises? I think the thought of self-pleasuring reminds me that I don't have a partner, and that is maybe part of the reason I avoid it. To which I say, good insight. If you think it's probably true, it probably is part of it. So I'm not going to give you some sort of advice that's going to sound like getting to the gym. Let's get some discipline going around this, because that's not what it's all about at all for you and for a lot of others, I suspect. Please remember that this is about pleasure and self-love. Now, I want you to try 2 exercises, both of which are in Urban Tantra, but I'm going to tell you what they are anyway, so you don't have to go look it up. One is, I want you to make a list of the qualities your ideal lover has. What are the qualities of your ideal lover? I don't mean big tits, tight butt. All of that is lovely, but I'm not talking about the physical stuff. I'm talking about great sense of humor, passionate about art, loves wild dancing, whatever it is. So write down like 10 qualities of that ideal lover. And I'm going to I want you to do it anyway, but I'll give away what's probably going to happen because it'll help make my point. What I think you'll discover is that you're going to wind up describing somebody who's really, really, really like you. So if the ideal lover exercise proves to you what it tends to prove to most people, and certainly prove to me, you'll realize that you're already with your ideal lover. You know, I said the one that'll never leave you, that one, who'll always want sex when you do, that one, you know. And start thinking about making that ideal lover happy. And here's the second exercise. Please write a top 10 list. Your top 10 turn-ons in life. Yeah, one of them can be sex, absolutely. But what are your other 9 top turn-ons in life? Surfing, riding horses, that's mine. Getting a massage, eating something fabulous. What are your top 10 turn-ons in life? And as part of your self-love practice, start giving yourself those. Because when you start treating yourself like your own best lover, you're going to be far more likely to want to make love with yourself as your own best lover. Okay? I hope that helps. We had a whole series of questions on differently abled people and how to navigate the waters erotically when you are differently abled. So here's one that reappeared numerous times in different guises. What hope is there for a man who is healthy, 74, and has erectile dysfunction? What hope does Tantra offer any hope? To which I say, so much hope. In fact, Tantra promises, no, that's the wrong word, could provide unlimited amounts of hope and pleasure. As I said a little earlier, Tantra is about opening ourselves up to infinite amounts of pleasure and awareness. Tantra is not about whether your penis gets hard. Tantra doesn't care about whether your penis gets hard. You do, I understand. Tantra, not so much. For example, one of the things that I learned about early on in my tantric practice was, or learned of early on in my tantra practice, was a kind of erotic massage that was developed by Joseph Kramer. And if you want to see videos of Joseph's erotic massage work, and I don't have a link for this one, but just go to barbaracarellis.com and click on online classes. I didn't know I was going to say it, so I didn't make a link for Elise. But erotic massage, which is also outlined step by step in Urban Tantra, is a way to give and receive pleasure with a loved one that does not require an erect penis. In fact, that entire erotic massage, the erotic awakening massage for people with penises in Urban Tantra, can be done with a soft cock and can be very pleasurable with a soft cock. So there's lots of different ways that you can move erotic energy. The breath does not require a hard penis. Moving your hips doesn't require a hard penis. Your breathing certainly doesn't require a hard penis. Making sounds doesn't. So there's so much you can do erotically without a stiff cock. Now, and by the way, we teach this method, this erotic massage, in both the Urban Tantra Experience Workshop and certainly in the Urban Tantra Professional Training Program. So for people who are interested in some hands-on work with this, just know that those 2 workshops that I offer through Urban Tantra will provide you with that experience, that instruction. And also, I'm so excited about this. One of the best things about my Urban Tantra Professional community is how vast it is, how many countries they're in, and how fucking brilliant they are. Team member Rebecca Lowry has a wonderful new series of ebooks with an audio component called Transform Your Sex Life. And it is a series. And the first in the series is on erectile dysfunction, and it just came out. Elise is going to put the link up. I really, really, really recommend this series. First of all, it's a tantric approach. Secondly, you can do it in the privacy of your own home. Thirdly, she's a genius. So please check it out. It's affordable, and I couldn't recommend her highly enough. She has so much hands-on experience with this. She really knows what she's talking about. And the same can be said for many of my Urban Tantra practitioners. If you go to the Urban Tantra Professional Training Program.com site, Elise is going to put the link up, and go the practitioner directory, you can skim through the countries and look for practitioners in around the world who are really, really, really experts at this, so you can go see them in person. And some of them do Skype sessions. They can actually work with you over the phone. So I hope that helps a lot of people out there who are struggling with ED. Here's our next question. How do I experience pleasure when the body is injured or sick, or when I'm dealing with physical pain? Good question. First of all, it depends on the type of illness or pain. For example, as I mentioned and wrote about, I started my exploration of Tantra during the AIDS crisis, initially with the intention of trying to find an ecstatic, spiritually healing way to have sex that didn't risk lives by sharing bodily fluids. So, keyword AIDS, we were in the middle of a plague, so a lot of people we were pitching this Tantra idea to were very sick. And I did write about some of this in Urban Tantra, if you want to look there as well for a longer discussion. But I remember in particular, it often wasn't about having sex. It was about using sexual energy to feel better. I remember, and I told the story in the book, my brother Bill was very sick with AIDS and going to drive across the state of Florida, and in the process of driving across the state of Florida to visit his lover, who was even sicker with AIDS, in the hospital. And he called me, and he had pulled over. He was just feeling like crap, and he was sure he wasn't going to make it. And I got really scared because I was in New York. There wasn't a lot I could do. And I started, the only thing I could think of was to suggest that he go pull over at stop at a gas station and go cruise one of the cute gas station attendants. Because I knew he used to love to do that. And he's like, oh, I can't do that anymore. I mean, I'm on so many drugs. I could never have sex with him, blah, 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 blah. I was like, I didn't say that. I said, just go cruise. Just go drink them in with your eyes. It'll do you a world of good. And believe it or not, he called me from the gas station, said he felt a whole lot better and he thought he'd make it to the hospital across the state now. Could be coincidence, could be a little erotic energy medicine. So some people can, if you're dealing with the illness or the pain, you could push your edges a little and say, well, maybe a little light erotic touch, maybe just some pleasurable touch. What do I feel like? Maybe watching an erotic movie. That could do it. It has for some people in pain. Breath and imagination. Unless it really hurts to breathe, you could use your breath for a gentle sort of breath and energy-gasm. Not a full-on pumping one, but just a gentle one. You could use your imagination to move good feeling energy around your body. You could combine it with some genital touch with the purpose of just feeling good, not with getting anywhere, not with achieving this orgasm or that or something else, just with the intention of feeling a little better. And as I said, there's a long section on this in the in my book, Urban Tantra, so you might want to read more about it there as well. A related question: what energy body work can assist in achieving orgasm when mobility is limited? the person asking, I think, was specifically speaking about aging, but we'll take the question a little broader than that. My motto, focus on what works. That is to say, focus on where feelings feel good and on what you can do, not on what you can't. As we keep saying, I keep saying in this webinar, intercourse is not the be-all and end-all for sex. There's about 1,000 in some other ways, and that's just my rough guesstimate, to have sex without penis and vagina intercourse or intercourse of other kinds. How about erotic massage? How about oral sex? You could creative use of furniture or pillows can position the body in all sorts of yummy, receptive, or active ways. There are two people that I really like to make you aware of on this question. First of all, in the past few months, I met a wonderful woman named Jamie Rautenberg. She's a holistic life coach specializing in chronic pain and illness. And trust me, she comes to this from some real personal experience. She's always looking for a way that clients can add more joy and pleasure into their lives. Her site is thedailyinfusion.com. It just went up in the chat. And she has an interview series. So just follow the links to her YouTube channel. She and I talked for like 90 minutes on this subject, and she had some incredibly smart things to say. So please, please check that out. Also, Corey Silverberg, my good buddy Corey, his ultimate guide, he's a co-author. Ultimate Guide to Sex and Disability is a great book. Again, the link's going to go up in the chat. Do check it out. Lots of smart people collaborated on that book, and there's so much good information in it. Next question. What effects have you seen with this work, particularly the orgasmic breath practices, in supporting people rediscovering their sexuality after a life-changing disability, such as a spinal cord injury or diagnosis of terminal illness, such as ALS or metastasized cancer? In my experience, the breath component has been quite amazing, especially when dealing with neurological damage. That's been, I've worked with and or collaborated with or chased down and interviewed people with spinal cord injuries. I've been interested in this for a couple of decades. And the breath and energy orgasm technique has been responsible not just for breath and energy orgasms per se, but in collaboration with touch, like from a caregiver or lover, where a couple of things. First of all, the breath and energy orgasm technique has been known to alleviate pain, like in spinal cord injuries. People with spinal cord injuries, we usually think, hey, their spinal cord's cut. They don't have any feeling. Oh, wrong. A lot of people with spinal cord injuries are in great pain a lot of the time. And I've been told by some that a breath and energy orgasm can keep that pain away for days on end. I mean, doing it once can keep it away for days on end, which is pretty miraculous. And after learning the technique, it's been helpful in finding that one place on the body. For one friend of mine, it was a thumb. For somebody else I heard about, it was a little square inch on their neck, where pleasuring that thumb or that square with like a mouth, a tongue, a finger, whatever, can bring them to orgasm, real honest to dinky die orgasm. So the breath and energy orgasm technique in neurological damage has been really kind of huge, and it's one of my greatest interests is in spreading that further. I'm continually looking for ways to work with that technique to see if we can do some positive good with women who have had clitorectomies, for instance. So anybody out there want to work on that with me or have any ideas, shoot them my way. I've had some experience with using breath energy gasms and other things with terminal diagnoses in cancer, but not specifically with ALS. One thing that does tend to be true, many, but just one that came to mind, was that breath orgasm processes, however you do them, and everybody does it a little differently, can, among other things, provide a sense of, oh my, more is possible than I thought. If my body is capable of doing this, then what else might it be capable of doing? So it can be a real sort of mental reset button for a lot of people about what their bodies can experience on a pleasure level, and on a profound pleasure level. Again, obviously, with ALS and metastasized cancer, it depends at what point of diagnosis. In early stages of diagnosis, you're working as much with the person's reaction to the diagnosis as you are with their physical being. So those are there. Obviously, we know this. There are different stages in that dying or terminal process, and it can be used for different things in different stages and in different ways. And is sometimes just not on the cards because they don't care about pleasure in some of those stages, and that's okay too. That leads us to orgasm and breath and energy orgasm. We had some questions on those, which I'm not surprised by. Here's one. One thing I can't seem to do is elongate my orgasms. Once I come, the feeling just becomes too much and I can't go anymore. I'm very aware of your gender-free orgasms, and I've tried this message, but I usually end up stopping the buildup and losing the orgasms altogether. What can I do? Okay. For the uninitiated, breath and energy orgasms are, and I'm probably saying this too late for the uninitiated, but here it is anyway. Breath and energy orgasms are orgasmic states reached without genital stimulation, but rather by focus on a conscious, usually rhythmic breathing, perhaps aided with it is in my system, aided with the use of imagination, which is using your mind, as I said earlier, to move sexual energy through the body. And it produces a full body, energetic orgasm state of varying degrees and intensities. Frequently, the only place you actually don't feel it is in your genitals, which I think is really funny. But that brings us to the answer to the question. When you combine a gender-free breath and energy orgasm, I've used a lot of titles for this, orgasm technique with physical orgasm, you can get some wonderfully longer orgasms. Really, it can be pretty dramatic. So what I would suggest is, don't worry too much about focusing on which energy center, which chakra the energy's in. Just breathe. Breathe with the intention of moving the energy up your body, and then focus on whatever else you're doing with your partner. This was a partner question, by the way. I just cut it short. And when you come to orgasm, keep breathing through the orgasm. After the initial orgasm, oh, and this was a person with a vulva and a clitoris, by the way, who was asking the question. When you actually get to orgasm, and then when the touch feels like too much, keep breathing. Keep the breath going. Keep the intention going. Just move the sensation, back it off a little. Move it just to the side or to a thigh. Let it, keep it there, but back it off, keep breathing, keep breathing, keep breathing, and then bring the touch in again. And it isn't a question of making a single orgasm last 20 minutes long. That's not the point. It's rather to stay in an elongated orgasmic state. Some people might call that multiple orgasms. Okay, great. I'm not attached to names here. It feels to me like an elongated orgasmic state, to use the words of the person who wrote this question. So try combining the two, and you don't have to be perfect at the breath orgasm, just with that same intention of filling the body with oxygen, with air, with energy. Another question about energy orgasms. When I try energy orgasms, I can never seem to feel the flow move from chakra to chakra or to take over and move on its own. How can I help that? Two things. First of all, use your imagination in the way your imagination most likes to be used. For instance, if I say, imagine a waterfall, what's the first thing that comes? How do you do it? Do you see a waterfall? Do you feel the spray from a waterfall? Do you hear the roar of the waterfall? Do you taste the water? Which way does your imagination work best? Start with that. So when you start to build energy, breathe into each chakra, do it with your favorite imagination style. See something or feel something or hear something or taste something. That might help. And truly, fake it till you feel it. Breathe, believing that it's true, even though you have no felt sense in this case. Just breathe anyway, because it's really just about the breath. Honestly, a lot of all that focus on chakras is just giving your mind something constructive to do so that it won't wander off into your latest problem at work. So if you can think of another way to keep your mind focused, go for that. Another suggestion. And, you know, don't worry about the chakra to chakra to chakra. Just breathe for 15 minutes and then try the clench and hold and see what that does for you. That may be all you need. 15 minutes of breath, the clench and hold. And the clench and hold, it's in the book Urban Tantra. Subscribe to my newsletter. You're going to get all these instructions for absolutely free by return mail. But quickly, the clench and hold is just holding your breath and clenching your abs and your butt. And then as much of the rest of your body as you can. Easy to do it is just pushing it into the floor. Tense everything, hold your breath, hang out there for 15 seconds, let go. After you've built up a whole lot of energy with the breath. It's based on a Taoist technique, and the Taoist premise is that there's an inner flute in the body. You can think of this metaphorically. And when all that energy is rocking and rolling because you've been breathing and all your cells are vibrating and having a gay old time, when you shut down everything consciously and intentionally, tension and hold your breath, there's no place for that energy to go but out the inner flute. They called it ejection of consciousness, or the way I first learned it was as ejection of consciousness. But my beloved teaching partner Chester said, you know, I think this shooting yourself out the top of your head thing is a little body negative. So how about injection of consciousness? How about I'm injecting myself as deeply into my inner world as I possibly can? And I really like that. So yeah, breathe a lot, try the clench and hold, see if that's a more effective way of having an energasm for you. Question, are you, it was directed at me, are you going to make a DVD on how to do the breath and energy full body orgasm? Well, I sort of did, except it's not a DVD. There's some of my video instruction for a breath and energy orgasm on my YouTube channel, and Elise is giving you the link. And one thing I will be doing after the upcoming tour, fall in the Northern Hemisphere, spring in the Southern, I'm going to be doing a series of guided breath and energy-gasm meditations, journeys, different little reasons and takes on the breath and energy orgasm. And those are going to be audio recordings, and I'll guide you through it. So who knows, there may be some YouTube videos, more YouTube videos to come, but audio seems to be the next one. Okay, another question. I've never had an orgasm from a man pleasuring me. I can climax when I pleasure myself, and a couple of times when a woman pleasured me. I almost feel hopeless, and I feel like I'm missing out on something. I climax when I'm masturbating, though. but I want to experience ease and climaxing with a partner. Help. This is so common. Honestly, it doesn't matter who gives you the orgasm. Honest. If you're eye gazing and breathing or in any other way fully engaged with your partner, it does not matter who holds the vibrator. Honest. What I would ask, what happens during your best orgasms with yourself? What's going on? What's present? What's happening in your body and your surroundings that makes those orgasms able to happen? Can you let your partner just hold space for you? In Tantra, in particular, I've learned that it's about the quality of the being with someone. It's not about the who does what to somebody. All the magic happens in that quality of being present with someone. So the other piece that I'm getting around this is that because the person asking the question shares later that they're also working in the sexological bodywork field. So they feel a double pressure on being more orgasmic because they're witnessing their clients having all these wonderful experiences. And that says to me that there's a certain amount of shame going on, this sort of hidden part that, you know, well, can make other people do it, but I'm kind of a phony because it's not happening myself. I could be making that up, but I know I might feel that way if this were happening to me. So whatever you can do to release the shame around this, because there's nothing shameful about it. Women who cannot have orgasms that are brought on by things their partners do to them is one of the most common questions I get. So you're not alone, and there's a lot of different ways to have a great orgasm with a wonderful partner, but I think you know that. Okay. Speaking of, well, actually, we had some questions about how does one become a sex educator? So I've kind of condensed these questions into one or two, and I'll hopefully cover everybody's base here. How does one become a sex educator? My first question is never how. My first question is always why. Because there's as many paths to getting there as there are people. There are getting to be more formalized paths to getting there than there were when I started out, goodness knows. But still, there aren't a lot, and they're largely self-crafted, even if you do take an academic path. So start with asking yourself, what is it exactly you want to do? How do you want to help people? Is it, are you an academic type? Are you a hands-on kind of person? Are you a good coach? Do you want to work with groups? Do you want to work with individuals? Any particular kind of individuals or groups? And who are you as a person? What are your strengths? What are your not so strengths? All those are going to inform what kind of people you want to work with. For instance, a buddy of mine does the most amazing street sex ed. He'll set up a soapbox in a park and just get people talking. He's a genius at it. Other people would be terrified with that kind of, they would rather be in an office or in a more academic setting doing their kind of genius there. So who are you? And if it helps, because I've helped other people with this question, I have a coaching practice that can help you get clear on this. You don't have to sign up for like a long coaching process, maybe a session, maybe one, maybe two. And I'm happy to help you get clear on what path you might want to take. And Elise will put up the link to the coaching. Somebody asked, what was my biggest hurdle in beginning my sexology business? Believing I could make a living at it. Really. That was the tough one. When I believed that, the rest got simple. What's your best advice for someone who's beginning? Um, my best advice, I think, is find your singular passion within the field and just begin. The path unfolds as you walk it. It certainly did for me. All I went into this for was to help my gay male friends through AIDS. I got good at that, and I started being approached by women with a history of sexual trauma, and then that led to another group, and then that led to another group, and then there was the gender group. It's been the most incredible path. I never could have predicted it, because in part because the path I'm walking now didn't even exist as a path. It was a bunch of uncleared woods when I started out. The other fear I think a lot of people have is that I don't know enough, and you may not. I often feel like I don't know enough, but I've come to accept that you'll never know everything. You'll know enough to be able to help the person who walks through your door today, because that's kind of the way the universe dishes things out. And they'll push you a little, you'll have to go find out more, and you'll be able to help somebody with a bit deeper issue the next time. That's how it goes. Don't wait, leap before you're ready, is my advice. And if you don't know something, say, I don't know, but I'm gonna go look it up, and I'll see you next week. There's no shame in not knowing something. A sex professional, I assume, asked, what can I expect from the Urban Tantra Professional Training Program? I've registered for the Melbourne September course. So I'll make this brief, but thorough, I hope. I think you can expect a week that's not only going to change your life and your work, but will also support you in continuing to make changes as you and your business change and grow. I know that you're going to discover how you can do more of what you love and a lot less of what you don't love. I know that you're going to see with a new clarity just how unique you are, and how no one else on the planet is doing exactly what you are or can offer exactly what you can offer, and how to use that new understanding in both your sessions and in marketing yourself. I know you're going to find the most amazingly exciting, diverse, supportive community, not just in the room in Melbourne, but also after you finish the program, in the community we have online. We have graduates from 25 countries. Someone's always online when you have a problem, no matter what day or what time of the day or night it is. And it starts in the room, and it just keeps going and growing and growing and growing after you leave. It's there for you forever. I think you'll find new ideas and practices and ways of approaching sexuality and consciousness, both for yourself and for your clients. Some people who are not sexuality professionals per se take this because they have what we would both consider a professional interest in the subject. And many of them later decide to fold sexuality into their work. You'll find sessions on marketing, on business, legal issues, ethical issues, self-care, lots of time to talk about very specific things that you want to talk about with people who want to talk about them with you. You'll get practical experience up and down the wazoo, as they say, in gender, in erotic massage, conscious BDSM, tantric approaches to a wide variety of sexuality issues. It's a very hands-on course, but it's also a talking, supportive course as well. It's an intensive week, which paradoxically also deals a lot with burnout. A lot of the people who on the first day of the course have landed there in some form of overwork or overwhelm, and it's one of the things that course long we deal with. You'll also get laughter, good food, and a whole lot of camaraderie, and I'm really glad you're coming. So I'll see you in September. Someone else asked, is the Urban Tantra Professional Training Program appropriate for sexual assault/rape survivors who might have some triggers and sensitivities around sexual situations with strangers? Yes, yes, yes. In this program, we so honor the wounded healer. In fact, a recent training program, each training program, people tend to create a little subtitle for the group for themselves. And we've had more than one that subtitled itself the Wounded Healer Group. Let's remember that a lot of us are doing our best work because of our greatest wound. And this is a week where we really understand that about each other. And it's one of the reasons we come together. So if you fall into the wounded healer category, know that a whole lot of other people do. And we all support each other, the team, me, and your colleagues. So yes, come. We'll hold you, we'll support you. I'm getting a lot of questions about when is the training program coming to the United States or Canada? And the question is, 2016, we're working on a place now. It's looking kind of East Coast, be that Canada or America, but I'll let you know the minute I know. And if you want to know any more about the professional training program, Elise is going to throw a link up onto the chat. A couple of people wanted quickly to know some stuff about the Urban Tantra experience and what the difference was. The Urban Tantra experience is a weekend workshop. It's for people who want some of the depth of the training program, but not the professional aspect, not the whole week long, just some of the good juicy stuff. So we created the Urban Tantra experience. More than a day, less than a week, it's a weekend. And one person asked, would I be doing any seminars in Sydney, Australia, New South Wales? And the answer is, alas, not this year. I've been there the last 2 years in a row, so we're giving Melbourne a shot this time. So the flights are cheaping up. Come on over to Melbourne. And somebody else asked if I could speak a little bit about the experiential content in the workshop. Will it involve getting naked in front of other participants? And the answer is, in Melbourne, no nudity, not unless you want to. There are opportunities for that, and some people take advantage of them. A lot of people don't. The only people who are obliged to get naked in the room in the experience in Melbourne are the demo models for the erotic massage, and they're members of the team, not participants. What'll happen is you'll learn the erotic awakening massage, and then you can go home and practice it later. The rest of the experiential stuff will be delving into the erotic power of breath, practicing breath and energy gasms, learning tantric techniques for more profound connections with ourselves and others, and we'll be learning how a really very conscious style of power exchange will make you understand BDSM in a way perhaps you never have before, even if you're a BDSM player. It's a very tantric style of power exchange, and I think you'll love it. Now in Sweden, which is at the end of October, yes, we will get naked when we practice the erotic massage in the room, and probably for a number of other things. And why? Because that's what they're used to, and that's what they want me to do. So we'll be naked in Sweden and not naked in Melbourne. I hope that answers the question, and I hope to see you in Melbourne or Sweden. And more about the Urban Tantra experience, there's the link. BDSM and polyamory and Tantra. Let me see where we are and how long I've got. Hey, we're doing great. Okay. But I will get a little bit faster without racing. Somebody just asked, what is the difference between consensual BDSM and violence? What are the behavioral markers of each situation? How do I tell the difference? Well, actually, your answer was, in fact, in your question. Consensual, consent, and intention. Let's just look at the intention around violence versus BDSM. The intention in violence is generally to do somebody some harm, right? Yeah, that's why we call it violence. And in BDSM, the intention is pleasure, perhaps intense pleasure, but pleasure. That's the desire. And so rules apply in BDSM. Violence, to my knowledge, has no rules. BDSM has a lot of them, guidelines, shall we say. And BDSM practitioners operate on one of two or both premises: safe, sane, and consensual, or risk-aware consensual kink. Really quickly, safe. Everything we do is, no matter how dangerous looking it is done with every possible safety precaution in place. Sane. No one is drunk, drugged, in a fragile emotional state, and consensual. Everybody's doing it, not only with initial consent, but hopefully enthusiastic consent, and consent which can be revoked at any moment by the person to whom something's being done to, in the case of sensation play. By the person who appears perhaps not to be in control. Actually, they have all the control to stop the scene if it's not working for them. For that matter, both parties do, or all parties do. Risk-aware consensual kink is a modification to safe, sane, and consensual. It's a bit more recent, and it merely indicates that instead of safe, risk-aware says, yeah, we know what we're doing is dangerous, and we're aware of the risks involved, be those emotional risks or physical risks, and we're consenting to take those risks. Obviously, none of those things apply to violence, so that's how you can tell the difference. Another question on this: how do BDSM and Tantra go together? To which I reply, very well, thank you very much. They're both conscious arts. All the things that make Tantra a deeper kind of sex experience make BDSM a deeper kind of erotic experience. The awareness of breath, the very specific conscious touch. People in BDSM do not wail away at each other without a warm-up. I mean, it may look like they're going at it with a lot of intensity, and they may well be, but they didn't start there. It's been a gradual progression, so the body has had time to get used to it and has gone from to ooh, yeah, you know. It's amazing how similar Tantra and conscious BDSM are actually, because the awareness of the energy exchange is what makes a beautiful tantric moment, and it's what makes a beautiful BDSM scene. A lot of my workshops explore this connection between BDSM and Tantra, and for most people, and for me, it's one of our favorite parts. Polyamory also came up in questions. My significant other has no interest in exotic, in quotation marks, sexuality. We have sex. It's satisfying, but it doesn't fulfill me completely. Is it ever proper to seek a partner outside of marriage to fill such voids? And there's another somewhat related question. How does polyamory and Tantra go together? Okay. So to answer the first question, is it ever proper to seek a partner outside marriage? Sure, so long as it's consensual. Not only do BDSM and Tantra go well together, but so do Tantra and non-monogamy. But just like all forms of sex aren't Tantra and all forms of BDSM aren't Tantra, but some are, but not all forms of non-monogamy are not Tantra, specifically cheating. So I would say if you can negotiate with your partner, a way for you to get certain sexual desires, needs, or interests met outside your relationship, great, go for it. Generally speaking, the cheating thing doesn't go so well for most people, but I don't think I'm telling you anything you don't know. And let's think about that risk-aware consensual thing. Risk-aware, consensual non-monogamy, aware that this could present some problems, and we can do it in a way that we can work this out. It's a big subject, and people have written some brilliant books on the topic. For some of them, I'm going to give you a resource list. It's being uploaded into chat now. So check out these resources. When I do workshops, and this will apply to the Urban Tantra experience and certainly to the Open Center, I welcome relationship configurations of all types. I've had groups show up, committed groups, and we have worked out these beautiful tantric rituals. Some people are doing it in pairs, a couple of people are doing it in threes, and there'll be this group of like 6 people who have figured out this gorgeous way to exchange energy amongst all of them. So I'm all about Tantra for more than two, because I've seen some gorgeous, gorgeous moments. Let me see what the time is. Okay. I'm going to go to this one. Can you practice tantric sex while using a condom? Absolutely, and I hope you do. Actually, like I told you, I got into Tantra because of its ability to enhance safer sex. So all the Tantra I've ever seen in my workshops rooms or in any workshops I hold, events I hold, are all safer sex rules. I know that in some Tantra communities, that's a little unheard of. I like being the model of a place where Tantra and safer sex go hand in hand. Somebody asked, what are some ideas for hotter, safer sex? Please say something about safe sex in general. I want to talk a little bit about safer sex versus risk-aware consensual sex. Risk-aware sex. I like this. Dr. Alexandra Izzo is the first one that I heard use the term. Safer sex means that basically we do absolutely everything possible to make sure none of your body fluids get on me and none of my body fluids get on you. Terrific. And it's a pretty hard line. And it's a perfectly good line if that's the one you want. However, instance where it is actually more practical to hold people to the standard of risk-aware, safer, risk-aware sex, meaning we know that certain risks exist. We know that certain STIs can be passed with oral sex, and we know which ones they are. And I am still choosing to go down on you without a barrier. For example, risk-aware. I know your status, or I believe it, whatever. So I think what I practice in my workshops rooms is safer sex. What I encourage people to do outside of the workshop room is risk-aware sex. It's a nice distinction and a somewhat new one for me. In terms of hotter, safer sex, I think it's a lot in the setup. So you might want to have a conversation that says the standard safer sex sort of elevator speech, which is, I was tested for, my test result is, anything people need to know about your health status. And after you've followed all that information, which is like, oh God, and your information was, I always use gloves, or I always use condoms, or whatever. And what I really like to do is, and then go into some serious detail about what you really like in bed. And it's amazing how it takes that clinical aspect away from the safer sex talk. I've seen it work almost every time. Somebody has a question about bladder infections, and I think we can answer this one relatively quickly. It seems like too often I get bladder infections after rowdy sessions. We try to be very clean, but it happens anyway. Do I have any advice? Yes. I've learned that sexual activity itself doesn't actually cause a urinary tract infection, UTI. However, it can increase the introduction of bacteria into the urethra, and it can cause irritation in that area as well as bacteria. So if you urinate after sex, but only if your bladder's really full, and if it's not, wait till it is, it's that powerful stream of urine that moves any bacteria out of the urethra and bladder, not just a few dribbles, but a really strong stream of pee. So drink adequate amounts of water if that's what you have to do to get that full bladder to flush it out after sex, and that should really help. Also, cranberry concentrates. Most people, cranberry juice is always recommended, and sometimes it's just not strong enough, or you'd have to drink too much. And apparently natural cranberry disables the cell structure of the bacteria by inhibiting their ability to adhere to the wall of the bladder or urethra, I assume. Now, I haven't done a proper survey of these cranberry concentrates, but I did find one that looked pretty credible, so we're going to put that link up. Again, looked pretty credible, do your own research, okay? And search for others. Someone else has struggled with hemorrhoids, and now they have a new partner who's very interested in analingus and anal sex, and they feel like it's an unsexy thing to bring up. They say, I'm in my 40s. This is the first time I've ever had an adventurous partner, so I'm excited to explore possibilities, but I don't want to turn him off. Yeah, I understand that. What I recommend, much like the safer sex speech, express excitement and reservations. Like, boy, I really want to do this with you. I'm so happy to have such an adventurous lover. I've been looking for you. I can't wait to do this with you. And we're going to have to go a little bit more slowly because, again, if this person's that into anal sex, they've seen a hemorrhoid. Trust me. Basic tips. Relaxation's really important, going really slowly, and lots of lube. Again, I found a resource. I love this one because it's on gaylifeabout.com, and who would know better, right? So here are some anal sex tips for people with hemorrhoids, and it's a short and really good article. All right, let me go back here. Okay, we have time for this question. I'm very much into activating life flow energy and the astounding experience it has led me to enjoy and engage in. However, my wife has chosen not to do this practice. Now, while I'm having sex with her, I feel a separation and I resent what I used to enjoy with her. What ideas do I have that might help him through it? This is complex. This is so much more than a short answer. Let me acknowledge that, because when I hear resentment, I go, uh-oh, red flag, let's talk. Here's one thing, though, that came to mind in reading your question, but it's just a little piece. When I was first experimenting with moving erotic energy around with my mind, with my breath, with my hands, I would frequently not tell partners I was doing any of that, like moving energy up their body with my mind and bringing it back down. In other words, I was using all my little energy techniques as an internal experiment. And I watched the effect that they had physically on my partners, which was pretty cool. And I felt very, it felt very me, like I was doing what I wanted to do. It was working for me. I was especially focusing on heart connection. And given this resentment thing going on, I would suggest that that's where you might want to start, is trying to establish some sort of heart connection, tantric heart connection, whether or not your partner thinks they're reciprocating, and just see if you can heal some of that split, some of that resentment. What I'm suggesting is you can try doing your own work yourself, your own pleasure, your own practices anyway. This may not solve a relationship that may already be a little broken, or where you've already hit a fissure. Other things may need to take place. But you might want to just try that one, because if you could kind of work on healing that broken-hearted place around this, you might find the rest a lot easier to deal with. Oh yeah, a practitioner question. This is not for everyone, but for the person it's for, I know it's really important. I'm in the midst of a Tantra course curriculum where we're planning to only touch upon womb healing, which is my area of interest. Can you point me somewhere where I may educate myself further in womb healing? I think this is a really important topic, and it's not my specialty. So I did some research in my Urban Tantra professional community, specifically with my colleague Leanna Gayland in Australia, and she's on the practitioner page if you want to check her out. She's an expert in this area. She wholeheartedly recommends studying the Maya, M-A-Y-A, abdominal therapy, because it's so practical and so effective. Apparently, Padma Aon, A-O-N, is the founder or a founder, and Barbara Mael is a student of hers. And here are a couple of Facebook links to people that you'll want to get in touch with. One is Barbara, and the other one is someone else who specialize in this, but Maya abdominal therapy is something you really, really, really want to check out. And I've heard Leanna go on at length about the miracles this therapy can work. So please, please check it out, and good luck. Good for you for pursuing that line of study. And as we wrap that up, we have a just for fun. This question started my Facebook group and my colleagues just erupting in delight, racing to answer this one. And it was, can you recommend some erotic books and movies that aren't totally cheesy? Yes, we can. And if you see the blog post I put up this afternoon, it's going up on the chat. My colleagues came through with a really, really, really good list of erotic books and movies that are most definitely not cheesy. So we did it. It's 9:26 here in New York, which means that we did this in the 90 minutes I promised you we would do it in. So thank you. Thank you for joining me on this webinar. Please, please, please join me at a live event. I've got events in Melbourne, Australia, London, England, and Stockholm, Sweden coming up, as well as in August on the 22nd, my one-day introductory day at the Open Center, which I do about 4 times a year, Urban Tantra, Sacred Sex for the 21st Century. So there's lots of opportunities to turn this into an experiential sort of thing that we could do together. So Elise is putting up on our chat a link to all the live events. It's been fabulous. Thank you for so many amazingly good questions. Yes, I know that some of your friends were not able to listen to this today, so we will put up ways for them to catch the replay, and you can pass that on to them, okay? So Elise, hang on. Elise, there she is. Anything we need to say to them before we close?
We will be sending you a replay link in your email that you can watch anytime whenever you're available. So you'll be getting that. And I also have a really nice document that I've been creating over the course of the webinar which has all the resources that we mentioned in the webinar. So we'll attach that to that email so you guys can, if you missed anything in the chat, you can go back and check out all those amazing resources that Barbara gave to us.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Elise, who is such an integral part. Well, let's face it, I wouldn't be here if she didn't organize these. And I'll see you someplace in person, I hope really, really soon. And if not, back here on another webinar soon. Thank you.